Hello dear students, this is 19th century novels, ENG 4236. This is a course where we will go through 4 novels at least. So they are Wuthering Heights, The Return of the Native, then A Tale of Two Cities and Jane Eyre. But today we will go through Wuthering Heights, and in Wuthering Heights we have some prominent characters, and among them Heathcliff is one of the very important characters which we will go through today. Dear students, uh, Wuthering Heights centers around the story of Heathcliff. Now, we know that Wuthering Heights is written by Emily Bronte. Emily Bronte, who is very famous for Wuthering Heights. She only wrote one novel in her whole life, and she died very young. So let's go to Heathcliff. First of all, we will go through the bullet points and then we go to the discussion. First of all, his birth. Then, where was he found? His appearance. His entrance in Wuthering Heights. How was he treated by the Earnshaw children? His growing friendship with Catherine. Henley's jealousy. His treatment by Henley after Mr. Earnshaw's death. His education stopped. His growing love for Catherine, neglected by the Lintons. Catherine's treatment towards Heathcliff. Then Heathcliff learned about Catherine's intention. And then Heathcliff's disappearance. Then his return. Then his different look. And then his fake interest in Isabella. So let's start with his birth. We do not know who are the parents of Heathcliff, who were the parents of Heathcliff, and where was he born, but we can estimate that Heathcliff was born on the 30th of July, 1764. The important thing to remember is the year of birth, that is 1764. And what about how did we find him, or how does he come into the novel? He was found on the streets of Liverpool as a homeless orphan. He had a difficult life till Mr. Earnshaw picks him up. So he was brought to Wuthering Heights by Mr. Earnshaw. Then we will see how he is treated by the family members of Mr. Earnshaw. Then his appearance. He was dark-skinned with dark and mysterious eyes. Emily Bronte described him as a dark-skinned gypsy. Here we can compare him with the Earnshaw children. The Earnshaw children were fair. They had blonde hair, they had blue eyes. So it is a contrast to this dark-skinned Heathcliff. Now, how did he enter Wuthering Heights? He was brought to Wuthering Heights by Mr. Earnshaw. After discovering him wandering alone on the streets of Liverpool during a business trip, Mr. Earnshaw felt pity for the child and brought him home. He adopted him and loved him more than his own children. That was a great mistake by Mr. Earnshaw. And it was the, start of Henley's jealousy. Now his name. He was named after one of Mr. Earnshaw's sons who died in his childhood. This is how he got his name, Heathcliff. Now, his treatment by the Earnshaw children. He was not at all welcomed by the Earnshaw children. They did not like him when he was brought home by their father. None of the children allowed him to be with them. The first night at Wuthering Heights was a dreadful night for Heathcliff. He was placed outside the house on the steps by Nelly Dean after he was rejected by the children and by Mrs. Earnshaw as well. Then we go to Catherine, who becomes friend with Heathcliff. Henry was always against Heathcliff, but Catherine gradually started to love Heathcliff. They became little playmates. They used to spend most of the day roaming about in the moors. Now we find Henry's jealousy. This growing friendship between Heathcliff and Catherine was not tolerated by Henry at all. He was very jealous with Heathcliff as he took away his sister from him. Now, what about Henry's treatment after Mr. Earnshaw's death? After his father's death, Henry started to mistreat Heathcliff. He was sent to the servants' quarters. He was forced to work in the fields all day long, so he was reduced to a servant. And then education stopped. His education was stopped by Henry, but Catherine used to teach him whatever she learned. Now, the love which is in between Heathcliff and Catherine. Heathcliff was very fond of Catherine. He deeply loved her, and she also loved him passionately. Now let's go to the Linton children, how they neglected Heathcliff. Heathcliff was always with Catherine whenever he was free from work. Once they went to inspect how the Linton children led their lives. There, in the Thrushcross Grange, the Lintons were happily playing with a puppy. Suddenly, Isabella saw somebody peeping through the window, and she screamed. Dogs were sent to the spot, and Catherine fainted there after being bitten by one of them. She was taken inside and treated like a queen, but Heathcliff was sent back, thus neglecting him and treating him like a servant. So this is also one of the points which he kept in his mind, and which acted like he started to think about revenge whenever he would find a chance. He would also take revenge on these Lintons. We'll later see it. Then Catherine's treatment towards Heathcliff. Catherine's stay at Thrushcross Grange changed her totally. She started liking the lifestyle of the Linton children. She didn't like Heathcliff's way of living. So he got a shock from his dear Catherine at a very tender age. Catherine and the Lintons started to meet each other and had fun together, keeping Heathcliff aside. Now Heathcliff learned about Catherine's intention. Catherine expressed her intention to marry Edgar because of social status, and as a result, Heathcliff became emotionally devastated. Then he disappears. When Catherine told Nelly Dean about Edgar and her marriage, Heathcliff was listening to them, hiding in one corner of the kitchen. He was totally shattered and left the hidden place silently. But he missed Catherine's conclusion, where she admitted that she belonged to Heathcliff and their souls were made of the same material. Catherine waited for him in the rain, sitting outside the house the whole day long, but he was not found anywhere. Then his return. 3 years passed, and there was no sign of Heathcliff. In the meantime, Mr. and Mrs. Linton died. and Catherine and Edgar got married after their death, and they enjoyed a happy life only for 6 months. Thrushcross Grange was now full of happiness, but it seemed that Catherine didn't have the luck to be contented. Heathcliff appeared from nowhere and visited Thrushcross Grange and met Catherine, which made Catherine very excited. She was very happy to see Heathcliff after such a long time, like 3.5 years. Heathcliff has a different look now. Heathcliff was now a gentleman, suited and booted, refined, and had a different personality. He looked very different, but we do not know from where he got the money, from where he got so much of money that he changed himself and became a gentleman. This part is missing from the novel. We just know that he returned as a gentleman. And where was he for these years? We do not know. Now, his trick to make Catherine jealous. Let us see. His fake interest in Isabella. He started to flirt with Isabella, Edgar's sister, to make Catherine jealous and of course to take revenge on Edgar and Catherine. Isabella thought that Heathcliff's love was genuine and eloped with him, which was her great mistake. And from then she had, a very miserable life ahead. Okay, that's enough for today, students. You will learn about this character a bit more later on. So this is a brief description of Heathcliff, who is the protagonist of the novel Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Thanks to my dear students again for listening so patiently. In the next class, we will know more about the character. Thank you so much.